Hello there, Reason People, PoohBear here, and welcome to my channel. And today we're going to be looking at elements from View. It's a free download, but at the same time it's a bit of a funny download. I'll go into details a little bit later on about that, because there is a paid part where you can get the latest version. It's only like a couple of dollars, and you'll get a pre-compiled version. Basically, this particular product has gone through a couple of different loops, and I'll go through them details more towards the end about that. So what is View? View is a VST which will allow you to actually load up other VST2's and VST3's in it. 64 bits, so it's not a 32-bit bridge. It'll only run up 64-bit VSTs inside it. It comes in a couple of flavors, obviously, when you actually install it into Reason, which is, it has an instrument mode and it's got an effects mode. We're actually running the effects mode here. And if we have a quick look, to say the big difference being is when you load up the instrument mode, there's no audio in. So that's why I always tend to load up the effects mode, is because it gives me audio in, and I can obviously use it as an inline effect as well. We're going to have a look at a couple of functionalities of this particular VST. So if we just quickly open up, this is what it looks like when you open it up. The reason I've actually added a couple of things already in here is because I'm running dual screens and I'm running Zoom programs and everything else. And when I load up something new, which I will do in a second, I'm going to have to go over to another screen and drag it across. And it's just to try and speed things up slightly. As you may see already, I've got something called instant chord, for those who don't know. So we can actually input MIDI into this. I can take MIDI out of this instant chord within this application, and I can obviously send it off to another VST already inside here for instant feedback, or I can actually pass it out and do what's called a loopback. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit later, and I can record it into the sequencer. However, there is a delay, and we'll look around a few little things of how we can do record and how we can sort out the delay. Well, you've always got a delay, so using this live, forget it. Yeah, but if you needed some MIDI output from a VST, we can do it, and we can get into the sequencer, and also we can massage it afterwards. But let's say the main sort of purposes I use this for is for using some VST3's. There's some interesting things, because this is instant chord VST3, this is instant chord, just the box sound VST2, and in fact I would be using this one here over this one here, because you're going to find there's some quirks between the two, and that's something you're going to have to learn yourself. I.e., with this version of instant chord, if I hit a key, it also passes that note through. It doesn't do what it's meant to do and pass out the chord note. It passes out the chord note plus the original note you played, whereas this version will only play out the chord note you're trying to play, and ignore obviously the input. So it blocks the input and only gives it its output. This one is passing that through. A little bit later on, we'll have a quick look at some of iZotopes, because with Neutron 3, the compressor and the EQ, it's got some sidechain in. Within Reason, it's broken with Reason 11.2 and above, because it works in 11.1. And I've noticed with 11.2 and above, it doesn't work. But by using the VST3 versions in here, we can actually get the sidechain in, compression, and the EQ in, dynamic EQ stuff working. And so we'll have a quick look at that as well. As I said, obviously on the back rack, you're probably quite used to seeing your inputs. Interestingly, this has got 10, but obviously the Reason rack only ever exposes 8. So you need to ignore the last 2, but there is 10 outputs. So we can obviously set up to 10 mixer channels going out. So you can have multiple, obviously, VSTs in here, feeding, you can have multiple effects, I suppose. You could be feeding different audio in, going through different effects, and then you can send them to their different audio outs. You may not have any audios in, and you may have several VSTs and have it all wired up, and you can have them obviously going to their individual outs as well. So it's incredibly flexible. And so let's actually have a quick look at a very simple bit of wiring. So at the moment, this is blue 2. If I double click on it, it will actually bring it up. So here it is. on your screens. You can hide it obviously by clicking the cross, as I say, so double click will actually bring it up. So let's for the moment just quickly zoom in here. Now if I was to take the audio out of Bluetooth and let's just put it out to ports 1 and 2. Obviously I've got MIDI keyboard up the top here. Nothing's going to happen. I can play this one. Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to hear anything. Why? Because we need to give it some MIDI information. So even though this here says no device, it's now connected up. This keyboard here, my keyboard at the top, I can now play. And oh, by the way, I suppose I should state this now before I forget, because I know I'm quite forgetful. Obviously, when you load this up, your keyboard's not going to play this. So just by clicking, obviously, the MIDI focus button, it will actually create itself a lane. And now, obviously, as you can see, as I'm playing, we've got MIDI data coming in. Yeah, so just bear that in mind. We can also, obviously, once we're down here, there's nothing stopping us actually creating ourselves a note lane, so I can actually record box standard MIDI data in here, ready to go into that VST. So you might have some audio coming in, you might have stutter edit in there for some reason, and you want to obviously supply some MIDI data. I mean, stutter edit works quite happily within reason itself, so I wouldn't really package it up unless you're just trying to do some other freaky stuff with it as well. But so that's a principle which we can look at, and we'll have a look at this sort of stuff a little bit later anyway. So, as I said, straightforward wiring up. Now when I'm playing this, as you can see, we've got ourselves our audio coming out of 1 and 2. So this is plugged into 1 and 2, and this is plugged into 3 and 4. So back over here, the beauty of elements as well is how you wire things up is they're multi-ports. Everything's multi-ports, so there's nothing stopping me taking this wire out here, this blue, and going out to port number 3 as well. So I've now got blues going to 1, 2 and 3. As I say, it's very, very flexible in the way it works. So let's actually go in, actually search for a device. Obviously I can just come in, just click on these and say, oh yeah, this is what I want, or you know, and go through it. It's got a search functionality, so let's say I just want to grab a delay, say for instance, I don't know what delay. So it's starting to come up with all my delays, and obviously I can go down, there's a VST3 delay there, it'll display all your delays. I haven't got light lows, which is fine, so let's actually put up the kilohertz one and just drop it in. Now I've dropped it in, you can't see it on this screen, this is why I said I had it pre-set up. I've got to go to another screen and drag it all the way over. Here we go. We've got it here, and I'm just going to do something really silly with this, just as sort of proof of, well, I say proof, just for some testing and a bit of fun. So let's zoom back in. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to take blue 2 and I'm going to pump it into the kilohertz delay, even though I've already got a dry signal going out. And in fact, I pulled out one of the wrong cables down here, didn't I? So let me put that into there. Sorry, I had a double arrow. I was just trying to get rid of my double arrow. It's just the way OBS works. It's got nothing to do with elements whatsoever. And now I'm going to take out the output of the delay and put that to 3 and 4. So as you can see, I've taken multiple outs of that. And there's nothing stopping me again to say, actually, I want this output to also to go out number 10, say, for instance. So I can obviously wire it up that way. So if I was to play a key now, we've heard that one, and now we're hearing the delay coming through the second one. So scroll down here, there we go. So this is 3 and 4. Let's take that feedback down just a wee bit. So 1 and 2, dry signal, and then here's our delay. So that's just a simple little bit of wiring. What we can do is that's more to demonstrate the wiring more than any other sort of capability of elements itself. I think the more interesting stuff, what people are going to be more interested in, as I say, is going to be something like instant chord, because obviously instant chord itself is the well, it's producing MIDI data. So what we want to do is obviously in here, we're going to wire up a MIDI input into that. We're going to take the MIDI output and wire that into, say, something like Bluetooth. So I'm going to break this wire because I don't want anything cleanly going through to Bluetooth. So theoretically now, if we used to play, there'd be a key up here, I think. So I'm actually playing the same keys. Is it here? No one? And the reason obviously it's changing is because over here I'm actually changing the chords down here, so it might be easier to show it. And fair enough, so it's quite instant. Instant chord there is playing very, very quickly directly into Bluetooth, and Bluetooth is coming to the output. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm actually going to take this output and put it into my Midi Loopback. So I've got a Midi Loopback set up, and I have got our videos on this, and again I'll put them in the links of how you can set this up. So this Loopback is now going to be talking to a controller, just a box standard MIDI controller, and I've got that pointing at Europa. And there is, let me just close that off, and let's close that off, and here is my Europa, so let's unmute that a second, and you're going to hear the Bluetooth to start with, and then you'd hear the Europa. They should sound at the same time, but because of delay. And that wasn't very good at all, was it? We didn't get anything at all. Have I taken out the wrong thing? Let's just double check and see what's going on. Oh, there we go. So you can hear this, you can see how much delay there is between the two. So one, there is that much delay between the two. And that's why I said you cannot do this live. But there's nothing stopping me coming down here, making sure things are armed and everything. So if I was to hit record, I can now record something. But I'm going to find it so annoying trying to do this. Having that play in the background. Actually, that didn't sound too bad. But what I would do is I'm going to mute the Europa off. Sorry, let me pull this back up again and put that on keep open. It's one of the annoying things, isn't it? And what we'll do here now is we're just going to hit record, and we will just record a couple of things just for a bit of fun. That's going to stop. Now what you can see here virtually instantly, so you know this was the last chord I was playing, or the last notes I was playing, and that's how much the delay is. And if we just sort of scroll over to the beginning, you can see from the first note being played to this one being played, there was a big gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this under here, purely so when we actually double click on this and go in here, you can actually see the actual delay, or how much delay there really, really is. Let me just try and... Oh no, that's fine. So yeah, so you can really see there, so that was my first note, there it is, and you can just sort of see the delay. Now obviously I can select all these notes now, because we're in Ghost View, and I can obviously drag these back, and I'll probably have to use obviously the position to get it absolutely perfect, but you get the idea. So this note was that being played, that was that being played, this one would be overlaid on top of there, and so on and so forth. So we can get the MIDI afterwards and drag it back and put it into place. So if you really needed the MIDI, you can do it. You're going to have to manipulate it afterwards. As I said, I mute that one off while I'm playing, so don't hear that one delaying in the background. It just really, really helps you're doing it that way. So that is a way that we can get stuff back via a simple MIDI loop, and it's all contained within reason as well. So we're not using two files or anything else. We've just got one simple file, and we can actually do it this way. As I said, the other thing I was going to quickly look at, and it's a nice one to get around. I was going to plot myself in a redrum in here, and let's quickly grab a redrum badge. It doesn't really matter actually what I grab, let's just grab that. and this is just to show how we can get the sidechain working. So sidechain for now these inputs here at the moment, because I'm going to be I'm jumping ahead. I'm going to be using iZotope sidechain. It doesn't matter where you put your audio in, because obviously it depends on how you route it inside Elements itself. So I could put these into 7 and 8, whereas obviously if we was wired up iZotope and this was an iZotope thing, it should have to be 3 and 4, but you can rewire that separately afterwards. So what I'm going to do here is in my plugins, let's do a search for Neutron 3. So, here's a good one. So let me grab this compressor in here and have a look at it. The thing I'm trying to draw your attention to here is the inputs and the outputs. There's only one input and only one output. Now this could be a bug obviously within Elements itself, but I thought, hang on, that was quite interesting. That this is what we're actually getting to see, because remember, this doesn't work inside of Reason. Now, if we was to grab the VST version across, it clearly shows all 4 inputs and obviously our outputs and obviously a stereo output. And I just found that really, really interesting to see, how come that's the case? So if I was to drag this, hang on, I've got to go and drag this from a different screen, don't I? Which one is it? Let's see if I got the right one. We'll soon find out in a minute. So as people know, this doesn't work normally if you're running Reason, as I say, 11.2 or above. Now, remember, I put my audios into 3 and 4, so 3 and 4 have to go to 3 and 4 on here. Obviously, I said I could have put my audios on 7 and 8, and I'll just take 7 and 8 and put them onto 3 and 4. So this is the important bit of how we wire things up going into Neutron 3. Now, if we just quickly put back into Reason itself, and if I make sure that's running, there we go. And as you can see, instantly, here's our sidechain information coming in. As I say, and that's obviously broken. Well, you can't get this one to work. This is the VST2, here's the VST3, so it works absolutely fine. This is a VST3, as I said, it passes through certain information where this one blocks it, which you want it to happen. So you want this is working, this one's not. So playing between VST2s and 3s with inside obviously Elements is going to give you maybe some subtly different results. So you might have a VST which is playing up out, within Reason. Have a little look at it in Elements. You never know, it might expose something, it might show you something which is a little bit weird, which shouldn't be happening, which might help you out. You might have a VST3 version, as I say, which will get you working. So that's this part of the presentation over with. Let's actually have a little talk about some of the other things within Elements itself and setting Elements up, and how we can use things like automation, because that's obviously going to be a nice one to play around with, how we can get remotes into here, because at the moment box standard stuff isn't going to work. So if I was to bring up my Bluetooth, where did I put Bluetooth? Is it hidden behind things? So let's just start closing things down. It's on the other screen. So I'm looking at another screen and I can see another copy of something. So just bear with me while I go and close that down. Here we go. So obviously at the moment, if I click on, say, automation there at the top, it doesn't matter what I click on, obviously, on Bluetooth or anything else. It's not going to automate it because we're in a shell within a shell, and things don't quite work that well. However, down here, we've got ourselves a performance button, so obviously I can actually click on, he says that, if that was a sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign something to Bluetooth. As you can see, we've got all these options, so I'm going to scroll out so I can see absolutely everything. And actually, let's try and go for something like volume. Volume makes sense, because now, if I was to scroll in here, as I move this volume, you can see this moving. is what I wanted to show. And the other thing about these buttons is when you click on them, you have to move your mouse left and right. For ages I was here trying to push it up and down and going, oh, it moves sometimes and not much, because it's a left and right control. That wound me up. It really does wind me up, because then obviously over here, back on this one, I can go left and right. And obviously now we've got this automation, we can obviously automate that. And he says we can automate that. Has he given me a lane? Yes, there we are. Parameter. Oh, why am I on audio? Yes, sorry, I've got an audio track there. But yeah, parameter 1, that's the one. Let's do a quick record. Left and right. Remember, it's left and right. Yay! There we go. It's recording there. It's recording there as well. So yeah, as you can see, here's our data. Can I get it all on the screen at the same time? There we go. And as we click around, we should see things move about, he says. Actually, that should be moving, but it's not. Something's not quite right there. No, I didn't think it mattered. You have to really play it. Okay, yeah, so playing it, we can see it's going. Let's take a snap off a second. Okay. Ah, there we go. It is jumping around now. I don't know why that wasn't going before. This didn't seem to be going before, but obviously when I let go, we should see that. And obviously, oh, I can't do both at the same time, so I can't get that on the screen. But yeah, here's my volume. As I move this around, you can see the volume's knob's going to change. Yeah. So that's how we can do automation. And it's the same really with the remotes. You can click on the remote, and then obviously you need to click down here, and then obviously you've got your Surface remote override, so you can obviously choose things there. Now, if I wanted to, and obviously this is quite a biggie as well, let's try and leave that on the screen. The screen's getting a bit full. I'm just going to grab myself an LFO. It's down to you to go and choose your preferred LFO. I'm just going to happen to pull up this one, hold my shift key down because it'd wire up otherwise, and drop that in there. Let's move that blue 2 out of the way for a second. I'm going to grab, this is a bipolar one, I'm going to put this onto port number 1. So here we go, port number 1. Let's flip round to the front. And from here, obviously I can select parameter number 1. You can see it going absolutely mad there. So let me just put this down to 3 and just turn it up just a wee bit so we can get some movement going. Now remember that this is a base level, and because I'm going from I've got a full signal going there from a -1 to a plus, or actually it's going from -0.5 because this is on halfway to +0.5, but that would give me the full sweep. And if we were to quickly pull up blue 2 again after I close it down, you can see it sweeping there as well. Now, if you remember rightly, I've actually recorded some automation. If you were running playback, it would actually ignore the CV and take the automation as what's being fed to these buttons. And as soon as that automation ends, so it's playing the rest of the song, then the LFO itself will kick in. So there we are. We're now using some LFOs. You've only got 8 parameters. That's it. Yeah, it's a bit of a burden, and that's 8 parameters for all of your stuff with inside elements. But you know, elements inside Reason, you shouldn't really be stacking loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of devices up. And I've got quite a bit going on here, but that's because of demonstration purposes. So you do have 8, which isn't bad. As I say, you can obviously, if you for some reason wanted to use buttons, obviously the CV8X4 is quite handy to pump into the back of this, because you've obviously got 8 knobs, so you've obviously got 8 controls, and you can use that. And obviously you can record automation on that if you wanted to see the things happening without having to have this open, because some people like to see knobs move around, and there you go, so you can do it that way. So yeah, so I think I've covered most of the things what people would like. Oh yes, so here's another biggie. I will actually have a quick look at the standalone version, because Elements also comes in a standalone version, and it's quite good to run up Elements for the very first time as a standalone version. What is not intuitive in here is on this button here, I'm going to right mouse click it, and this is where we can get to all our options. There's, as I say, within here, there's all kinds of things. There's all these matrix where we can actually start putting a matrix up. There's other views within here, but as I say, I didn't really want to go into everything. The big one under here is obviously if I right mouse click and we go down to the plugin manager, and then from here, this is how we can obviously go in here, set your search paths up, your box sound search paths up. I'm not sure what screen or where that's actually opened up on. Let me just, oh, is that on this screen? Yes it is, sorry, it's over here. So, too many screens to look at. So, yeah, so you can add extra paths in here of where you wish to search for your VSTs, and obviously you just click on the scan, and the same is obviously true for the VST2 stuff. I only happen to have a simple path. I can see that. I don't think you guys can see that, can you? No, it's on another screen. Oh, it gets so confusing. There we go. Oh yeah, that was an experiment. So I was trying to see if I could load up 32-bit ones, and I couldn't. So I'm going to remove that now because I won't be looking at that again in the future. So I have all my VST2s in one directory, so I'm quite good like that. Yes, that was an important one. So that right mouse click, and let's actually, as I'm here, let's fire up the standalone version. So just bear with me. I'm just going to fire that off and bring that across. Oh, that's nice. So this is the VST. This is a standalone version. The nice thing about this is obviously you've got a menu bar at the top. So you've got a lot more things going on. You have a few more options as well with what you're doing, especially with the input and the output, because obviously with inside the VST you're in a bit more of a sandbox. One of the things I was playing around with and I noticed and I thought, oh, okay, that's an interesting thing, is I've got myself a USB mic which I've set as an input. So it's got it going for a verb and a gate, but there's nothing stopping me wiring this into my audio box, and now this is now going through Reason and back out into OBS, and yeah, oh, that winds me up, hearing an echo of my voice. But yeah, so basically, I've got myself a USB microphone going into Reason, which I could record, which is quite a handy way without me having to set up ISO for all or using Voice Banana. I could use something like this. I can't use this inside, obviously, the VST version. I have to run this as a standalone, and I could obviously just have these two elements here. I don't need anything else set up here at all. This was an old experiment I was doing where I was sending data out using the EMI and MIDI out, or the MIDI out device, and sending it into Elements, getting the instant chord and sending it back. But I just found that so unusable, as I say, because of that delay. But now it's inside. Yes, we've still got the delay, but as you can see, I could obviously pump, we can pump it to another VST instrument, hear it, so it doesn't put you off, and then you can get that information back. But as I say, the main thing about having the standalone version is more to do with the window options, so you can just get yourself an idea of what's going on here. But if you notice, there's none of that square button, so there's nothing to right mouse click over there. But yeah, so Elements is a great little program. I'm just going to close that down. It's probably prompting me, do you want to save a session? So that's, with the standalone version, you can save your sessions. So if you set something up, you can obviously save it. You can have multiple sessions, save different, let's just do cancel, sorry. And on here, obviously you can do save as, and then you can open different sessions. Yeah, so you can, it's a bit like a combinator, isn't it? You're saving your combinators. That's really what that's all about. And yeah, I'm going to say no. Obviously within Reason, there's nothing saved because it's saved within Reason itself. So this is obviously per session. So if I had 6 or 7 elements, they'll all look differently, and you couldn't, load up from one to the other. You could copy and paste, I suppose, the patches, but that's about it. But obviously they're saved within Reason. So as I said, with Elements itself, you can download it for $2. I will put some links in the description. Hang on, sorry, 1 second. I've just got to get rid of another screen. Because Elements is also available on BitGut. So you can actually download and you can compile all the code up yourself. But if you want the latest version, and as I say, the latest version as of now, I have had an email through, which is 0.45. I think 4.4 is up there, what they've sort of still got on their website. But as I said, Elements came originally from, I think it's like a bit of a kickstart. It went from Kickstart to Patreon. It went from Patreon to open source. So even though it's open source, whatever he's decided to do is whenever he's obviously does a release, he will actually make a package for you. So you can just download a simple package, click on the executable, and it'll load it all for you. Brilliant. If you want a free version, as I say, you've got to go and download it and compile it all up, and it's a bit of a nightmare. So for $2, it's worth it. I think that's why he's done it so cheap. It's like, well, it's more hassle to go and get a free version than it is just to go out and pay out a couple of bucks. It'd be just so much quicker. I know it refers to it. There's obviously subscriptions now, but you can just pay that one off. And as it says, excuse me, access to a pre-built release for 7 days. And obviously this is actually Elements itself, so you can see there's a little mixer, there's other things which are going on in it. As I say, I was just doing this presentation more to do with using Elements within Reason, but there is obviously a lot of other functionality. And excuse me again, as I said, this is actually being updated quite frequently. The version you actually saw running on my system was, I think, was 4.1 or something like that, or 4.1. And I'll say, I know at the moment, I'm pretty sure it's 4.5, which is available to download. Oh, is this the download page? So we've got source code, so you can go and get the source code, or there's pre-installers where you can go and get yourself your pre-installers. But as I said, to get the pre-installers, you either need to pay your couple of dollars for the one-off time. As you can see, this website is a little bit split. It seems like they're having a bit of an update at the moment. There was people in the past who bought a pro version. I don't know, they paid their $50 going back, and they're always going to get free unlimited updates. And as you can see, as I said, there's what, 0.44. I know there's a 4.5 literally just been released, and what they've done with the pro version is people who've got 4.5 will get that a few days earlier, so access to early releases. So yeah, so that's how we can actually download it. As I said, if you want to use Loopback, I've got a video exactly on how you can set up Loopback. So don't forget, once you set a Loopback up once, it's set up for life. So I think some people look at Loopback and, oh, it looks very scary and run away, but actually, yeah, it might take you half hour to set up, say, for the first time, and thereafter it's there running. So Elements is a great little program, works really well, and more importantly, it works really, really well with Reason. You are going to find a couple of little glitches in it. As I say, it's beta. The great thing is, you find any issues, I found some things, I fire them off to the developers up on GitHub, and yeah, things get sorted. So it's something which is actually being worked on more and more. It's just a shame, I suppose, they went down one path and things and life and other things had an effect. So they didn't quite get it finished probably to the way they wanted to, so hence it went down the route of open source. Being an open source product, I think they get worked on it, and people definitely will have a look at certain features and they'll probably start bringing them out. But it does work very well as a VST. They obviously supported VST3's. As you can see, I could get some MIDI data in and out just in using one session, so I didn't actually have to go, even though I am going outside using Midi Loopback, it's just the loopback part I'm using, so I'm not having to use another third party to actually get the data. Works really well. Sorry, I'm starting to waffle. If you're not used to my channel, this is what I do. I do lots of waffling. But yeah, so there we go. In a nutshell, all I can say is thank you for watching and bye for now.